and today we are making taco pizza. Obviously, if you've seen any of our videos, you know that we love anything Mexican, and taco pizzas are right up our alley. So, I don't know what the cameraman was doing, but he made me laugh. At any rate, this is a really easy, simple dish, and it's something you can prepare in advance. Like, sometimes there are days that if I have time, I'll cook up my meats and stuff and kind of plan the week's meals out, or at least a couple days' meals out in advance, because I like to make enough to last a day or two, and then if I have enough like hamburger or chicken, I'll plan what the next meal is going to be with it. So I'm not spending more time cooking at the stove with the meat. Most of my time is just in preparing the dish itself, and then maybe baking or rewarming. The taco pizza is really simple, and first you start off browning your ground beef. If you're not using a lean ground beef, make sure that you drain the grease off before you start to add your seasonings and stuff. I put my ratio here for meat is 1 pound of meat per 1 can of bean, and you'll see as I put it all together what I'm referring to. But in this pan I've got 4 pounds of ground beef browning. As it's cooking, you just want to make sure you keep chopping it a little bit so that it is fine. We prefer not to have big chunks. Some people do like the bigger chunks of meat, but in this particular recipe I prefer to have it more fine. So obviously, if you're going to make a taco pizza, you have to have a crust of some form. The crust I use is very simple. If you're familiar at all with making bread of any type of dough, sweet rolls or whatever, you know that you have to let your yeast proof, and what that means is it becomes foamy, bubbly, and it's just more active with the flour and stuff you put in there. You don't have to do this with the pizza crust. However, you can. I mean, it's not a make or break type thing. It's just a little bit of different product. If you watch me at all, you know that I say, you know what, play with it, work with it the way that is comfortable for you, and the best way to do it is hands-on. For us, I'm in a bind tonight. I am in a hurry. It's late. We didn't have lunch. We're nearing supper time, and everybody's hungry. So I'm not gonna let it proof at all. I have approximately 2 cups of warm water in here. I know that for some people who make bread, they are adamant the temperature has to be just right for water before you put your yeast in. Here's the reason why, okay? Because some people are prone to have water too hot, and that'll kill the yeast. Some people are prone to have the water too cold, and the yeast won't activate at that time, or it won't proof. Okay, so over time, when you start to make breads and stuff, and you learn, you can just stick your finger in the water, and you kind of know the temperature that will allow the yeast to proof. You've got a large leeway, but again, it's just spending some time with this stuff. So I'm just going to say that it's warm. It's warmer than room temperature, but it's not coffee warm. Think about it like if you had a little child, like a 2-year-old, like my little one who's 4 now. He loves to have cocoa or tea. He loves to have mama's tea with her, and I have to let it cool down enough to where I know it's not going to burn him. So think about a young child drinking something warm. It can't be hot like coffee hot for daddy or mama. It has to be cooler but not cold. So there's my instructions on that. So I've got 2 cups of water going on. Whoops. And I'm going to put about a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons of salt in, whatever suits your fancy. Then we're going to put some olive oil in. You can use something else. You can use butter. You can use whatever your preference is. I'm going to gauge that that's probably about 3 to 4 tablespoons of oil. A little more is not going to hurt it. A little less isn't going to hurt it. You know what my motto is. For this amount, you can go anywhere between 1 to 2 tablespoons of yeast. 1 tablespoon, it's going to be fine. 2 tablespoons, it's going to be extra active, and it's going to rise a lot quicker. I used to, when I lived down south, or down below as we say up here, I could buy Red Star in like this huge economy packet. It was a brick. I don't have that option up here. What I have is these little pre-tablespoon packets, and actually they're more like 2.5 teaspoons, or I have a jar. Now a jar, I find, because of the way I cook, that I waste a lot. And the jars are a lot more expensive. I would get this big brick, and I'm not kidding you, the brick was probably like that, I want to say it was like 2 pounds. And I paid less than $5 for it at the bulk store. For 3 packets of this, I pay $1.18. For a little jar of it, I pay over $6. And so it's more economical for me to do this because I'm not as wasteful. There's one of the problems that, I talked about it. Some people are more comfortable with measurements, some people are more comfortable without measuring, and there is some negatives to not measuring. And it's like in this situation where an item's fairly expensive and you don't measure and you find that you waste more. So this is just better for me. So I'm going to use 2 packets in here. And the reason I'm going to use 2 packets is because I'm not giving it time to proof. And that way I know that my yeast is going to work. I don't have to worry about the dough. I'll just let it sit there for just a second.
That's long enough.
I'm just preparing. Okay. Now
that's long enough.
The recipe is 1 cup liquid to 2 cups flour, and then additional flour. It's a double batch, so I've used 2 cups liquid approximately, and I'll use approximately 4 cups plus flour. What you're looking for in this is you want to be able to knead this and not have it stick to you at all. It's going to be much, much stiffer, tougher, I guess is a better word, than a dough, like a bread dough or a sweet roll dough. And you just add, you add your flour, enough of it so you'll know that it's not going to be sticky to your hands. You do not have to over knead this. What I do is the only reason I'm really kneading it is for the consistency of the dough that I'm looking for. So lots of times as I'm adding more flour, obviously I end up spending more time kneading it. Sometimes I get lucky and get the right amount in right away. Then I just knead it till everything's mixed up good. And I call it good. I will let this dough, once it's kneaded, once I've got all the flour in that I want, I will let the dough sit for a few minutes before I roll it out. It does not have to sit long. Again, if you're an experienced baker and you've dealt with doughs, yes, you can let it sit and let it rise to double if you'd like. What you're going to end up with, if you're not an experienced baker, what you're going to end up with if you don't let your dough sit and rise is the dough is going to be the crust is going to be, and I'll use the word tougher, and I have to be careful there, and it's not necessarily going to be tougher. It's really depending on what you're cooking it on. I find like if I cook it on my cast iron skillets, I don't have a tough dough at all. If I cook it on my tin cookie sheets, lots of times it'll be tough if I don't give it the opportunity to proof or to rise. So if you're worried about a tough dough and you don't want a tough dough, let it rise. Give it some time to rest, more than what I'm going to give it. I might give it 5 minutes, 10 minutes max this evening. But normally you'd let it rise just to like double. How are you doing, cameraman?
Just fine.
Hurry up, right? Get her done, mama. Okay, so.
I'm trying not to be too irritating this time around.
Yeah. I had a viewer say that they liked our channel. Actually, they said I love your channel, but you seemed a little annoyed with the cameraman. And that was actually a day I was annoyed with him. But no, I wasn't.
What's new?
We had so much to do, and I wanted to get this shepherd's pie video done. And I was just in a hurry, and I had a lot of things going through my mind. I just didn't have a lot to say. So when he was talking, I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever.
As usual, I stick my foot in it.
So.
Not the shepherd's pie.
A little bit too sticky for me, so I added more flour. Now, check that out. Okay, that's sticky. And if I'm really wanting to make a really super good pizza crust, I'm going to work it a little bit more and add a little more flour. But I'm also, again, I'm under a time crunch. And, Ron and I have been talking a lot about what is our purpose in YouTube. And we've actually been talking about it for years. What is your purpose? And we have so many times where we're not here, but when we are here, it's like we're totally focused, and we just feel like this is where we're supposed to be doing, even if it's like we said, reaching one person. That's important to us. So our focus though is we want to empower, and I want to empower in the kitchen. there are women that don't know how to cook, or young girls that don't know how to cook, and I want you to feel empowered. I want you to understand that the efforts aren't wasted, even if it doesn't turn out just like you think it should or someone else thinks it should. everything you do makes you a better cook because you learn what not to do, even when it turns out wrong. So, and I can tell you what, I have so many things turned out wrong. I cannot tell you how many times after being a seasoned cook that I forgot to put something like in my bread dough, important things like yeast, okay? I'm in a hurry. I'm not paying attention. I'm cooking a cake.
I can verify that.
I forget to put baking powder in, it's like, what's wrong with this? Now that's just from being, in a hurry and not paying attention. But it's also, when you learn lessons like that, it kind of makes you remember a little bit better the next time. Don't do that again.
Because your family will laugh about it for years to come.
So I've got it pretty much to where I want it. I'm going to sit it down, I'm going to cover it up, and I'm going to let it rest for about 10 minutes, and then I'm going to go ahead and you can roll it out with a cookie dough on a cookie sheet, or you can just press it out with your hands. Depending on how tough it is will determine what I use.
It's a happy little ball.
Okay. So once your dough has risen or rested, whichever you choose to do, you need to decide, like I did a double batch of dough. My guys, first off, like their crust thick. I am a thin crust individual, so what I will do is I will make a little personal pan, or a two-person pan first, so my crust is really thin. Then I will take what's left. It may be too thick, what's left, to put into one pizza pan.
Never too thick.
But I'll try it. If it's too thick, then I'll take a little bit off and thin it out a little bit. But as far as the thin crust goes, the thinner the better for me. Start in the middle and just push your way out.
Just flop a sheet of paper down there.
Yeah, see-through. This was a pretty good amount for me, because I do like my crust this thin. And then I will swoop the edges up. Now you can see some thin spots, and that's okay. I'll just take a little bit more dough and press it down until those spots are filled, so the pizza stuffing doesn't ooze through. And then that's really all there is to it on this one. The thing about taco pizza, for me, I like to cook the crust by itself. I don't want to put the stuff on it. My meat and bean mixture is already going to be hot. So I'm going to put this in the oven while I do the larger pizza. Whilst doing that, I realize that I need to feed my fire. The one thing I forgot to mention, and if I don't tell you this, you're going to be thinking, why didn't she do this? You need to butter your pan, okay? If you don't butter your pan or put some type of grease on that pan before you put that dough on, that dough is going to sear itself to that pan and you're going to have a mess. So, now I can tell right away that this is going to be too thick of a crust. So I'm going to push the thinner side down here and work out. Perfect. I want to get my edges going on so that it holds my toppings. And see how I got this big bunch here? What I will do is I'll take that off, and I will do one of two things.
No.
I will either make another little pizza, or I'll make a small batch of breadsticks. Something that, see, I still got too much here. Something that'll last tomorrow, a little snack or something. Okay, now that'll do it. They do like it thick. And I'll even it out. A little thinner on this side. Yeah, I said you can use a rolling pin, and you can, but using the rolling pin, you really don't get the feel of what's going on with your dough as far as where the thickness is at. Okay, and that's it until I cook her up. While the crust cooks, we're going to go ahead and we're going to prepare the topping. One thing I want to share here. I've been bragging. We know we did a a video of RJ spoons, some of the ones he's done. And I had made the comment that, you know, I have quite the spoon collection, or quite the wood collection that my children have made me over the years. And I have saved almost all of them. Josiah, the beloved cameraman, all those that just love to hear his hootiness, he made me this spoon. Rustic as it was.
I found that spoon.
One year for Christmas. He was about 6 or 7 years old. And he was so proud of his endeavors that I have, not only have I kept it, but I use it faithfully. For those who don't know, wood is a natural sanitizer within itself. So if you have a wood cutting board and you hear all the naysayers say, oh no, that's not safe, you got to get plastic, it really is safe. As long as you wash it properly, it doesn't matter what you cut on it. Wood is a natural sanitizer, and so goes with the wood spoons. So I just wanted to show, you know, all you mamas out there, you know some of the things you have kept through the years and used because your little ones made them for you, even when they're not so little. So this is Josiah's first spoon.
Love you, Mama.
Okay, so you've got your brown burger, and you've got your refried bean. Now, you can make your own. More power to you. If you like your refried beans that you make, go for it. For me, as I said in my other video, I don't make a good refried bean. So I depend on canned beans when I do a Mexican dish. 16-ounce can per pound of ground beef. Now, it just so happens that I'm wanting to stretch this out a little bit more. I want more than just taco pizza. I want to get some nacho dip from this. And this is a wonderful recipe for that. And as we go on, I'm going to share with you how that is. So I'm going to empty out 5 cans instead of 4. I've got 4 pounds ground beef, and I'm going to empty out 5 cans into here. Rid of that thing.
Nasty stainless steel.
All right, so I'm going to add about a can of water to this. And you're going to stir it up. And you're going to stir it up.
Stirring, stirring, stirring.
Now, depending on your bean can or the way you make your refried beans, how pasty or how runny they are will depend upon your liquid. I could use more liquid in here, but I'm not going to add it yet because one of my favorite ingredients in this is this salsa right here. And I apologize. I am so not educated when it comes to pronunciation of the Hispanic language, okay? But it's the green salsa, as I call it, when we have to pick it up. Let's get the green salsa. Salsa verde. Or
It's not French, it's Spanish. Verde.
salsa verde.
And I apologize to all those Hispanics out there.
For those of you that wonder sometimes why I'm annoyed with my cameraman.
This is the reason.
Okay. So I start with about a half a jar of this. In this particular jar, it comes in a 16-ounce. It's not a hot salsa. It's not like a red salsa, you know, where you get the mild, medium, or hot. That's not at all what this tastes like. It's just actually, there's some type of flavoring in there you can't get from cumin, you can't get from paprika, you can't get from pepper or salt. And this should be actually about enough liquid. If it's not, I'll thin it out a little more with some more water or some more of the salsa if there's not enough flavoring. And I also will add salt here. And I'll go ahead and I'll put in a little cumin. You can always add more. And of course, I cannot do this without my favorite, paprika. And paprika can be as liberal or as reserved as you like.
She tried peanuts, but just didn't work.
Stop it. Stop it.
Let's all fade into the shadows now.
Alright, so you make sure you get it good and stirred up. And it just gives a really great flavor of the spices. You get just this Mexican food flavor that you would not normally get without these particular spices. So let's check it and see if it's got enough. You'll see I'm a little light on the salt. And I can definitely use some more salsa. And of course, if you let it sit for any length of time overnight, spices become stronger.
They increase.
Oh, that we would get stronger as we sit overnight. All right, that's pretty good. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to put it back on to warm up. Check my crust. So now our crust is cooked. Our meat filling and bean filling is ready. All of our vegetables are washed and chopped. And what I personally do for myself, for my family, I put the filling on. And before I put the topping on, I cut the crust because everybody likes something different on top. Okay, or else at least everybody likes more of one thing than the other on top. So it's just easier to do that. And also it goes in the ice box or the refrigerator better for storage purposes for overnight. And then all you can, if you have a microwave or if you use a microwave, you can pop that in to the microwave, just warm up the crust and the meat, and you're not getting your veggies, all soggy from that. So my crust is ready. And I had to change out my good stirring spoon that Josiah made me all those years ago for a scooping spoon. You just scoop it on however thick you want it. Now, something that I want to point out here, I know that I put the green salsas, I call it, or the verde salsa, as Josiah calls it, or the verde, if you were French, in my meat bean mixture. That is not necessary. One thing I like to encourage cooks to do is work with what you have. If you don't have that stuff, then improvise. If you have cumin, put it in. Put a little extra cumin in to compensate for it. Put the paprika, the salt, put pepper in it. I don't use a lot of cayenne pepper when I'm cooking because we use it at the table instead of black pepper. And too much cayenne pepper for the little ones, it's just too much. So we kind of use that at the table. But any spices you like, onion powder, garlic, whatever suits your fancy. You don't have to have the one salsa to make this work. In fact, I did it for years without it. I didn't start using that green salsa until we came up here and found out that I absolutely loved it. So now that it is set up with the meat, I'm going to go ahead and cut the crust. So this is one of those meals, if you've watched my videos, I talk about maybe having a few ingredients and learning how to mix them up so that it's something a little bit different than, just what you always make with those 2 or 3 or 4 ingredients. And this is one of those circumstances. We've done double stuffed tacos on videos. We've talked about, different types of tacos to do. And this, you add a couple different things and you put it on a pizza crust, and all of a sudden you don't have a taco, you have a pizza. Now I still use my spinach, my fresh spinach, and I still use my little baby tomatoes. Again, if you've got access to larger tomatoes, cut them up, or you can dice these up. And we love onions, and then our cheese on top. With this,
It looks very Christmassy.
a little bit of salsa, and you have got yourself a meal. Now, if you've got access to fresh salsa, if you have a garden, you're very fortunate. God bless you. Make up your fresh salsa. Doesn't take much. Some tomatoes, some green peppers, some jalapeno peppers if you're a little bit more on the hotter side. Some green onions or some regular onions, and it makes a great salsa. You can add cilantro if you like, or garlic. Experiment like that. But for us at this point, I have to buy our salsa in a jar, and it's not something we typically put on our tacos, so when we use it for our pizza, our taco pizza, it makes it different. Sometimes I reserve certain things back, even though I might have the same ingredients as I do in other meals, and to change it up a little bit. It's because technically what I have here, if I were to have a flour shell, I would have a taco. So it's the creativity you get with what you have to do with. Now, with that said, some people do not like crust, and some people would prefer to maybe have a nacho dip, which is great. And this bean hamburger mixture is perfect for that. You can put it on pizza. I mean, if you want to just wrap it up in a flour shell, you can do that. It makes a great taco too. But if you just want to dip it with chips, you know, hold back on the vegetables, you can put that on there and you can melt that cheese. And you've got a fine dip there for a party or for a church social or whatever it is you might have. So with all of that and those ideas, let us know how you like it. Let us know what you changed, because that helps other folks. If they read your comments and you've changed it a little bit, that might encourage them to do a little something different than how I said to do it here. But we hope to hear from you, and we hope to see you again. God bless.
Father, we love and praise you today, and we thank you for your goodness, Lord, and God, we just thank you for your blessings. Father, we just, I thank you so much for this family, Lord. It's the blessing that each one of our family members are to each of us. Lord, we just thank you for your provisions tonight. We pray that you would bless them and nourish them to our bodies. In your name we pray. Amen.